today is the 25th of February 2014. My name is Artemis and this interview is for the Ming-ai Institute British Chinese Workforce Heritage Project. Can I begin by asking your name?
Hanifah Law.
And when were you born?
1948.
And where were you born?
Hong Kong.
And tell me a little bit about your family.
I have two grown-up children. They're in their 40s, and I have two grandchildren. They're all living in London.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have three sisters and one brother. I'm the eldest.
Great. And what work did your mother and father do?
My mum was a housewife, and my dad was an executive in a law firm.
And what education did you have?
I was educated in Hong Kong, and it was similar to the GCSE in this country.
Great. And what jobs did you have before becoming involved with charity work?
I was a junior executive when my children were very young, and then I had a long career break. And after that, I worked my way up to a deputy managing director of a public listed company.
And what led to your decision to become involved in charity work in Hong Kong?
I started charity work in the 70s when I came to this country. My children went to junior school and then had some spare time. And then I started the Chinese community service in Harrow under the auspices of the Harrow Community Service. Yeah, and from there on, when I returned to Hong Kong with family, so I joined, and I was introduced to some charities, and then I was recommended to be trustee of some charities. Yes.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about the organizations you worked with in Hong Kong?
There were two organizations I worked with. One was a local listed company in manufacturing business as a general manager, and the other one was the Whirlpool company. It's an American global company. Again, is a manufacturing business. Yes. I travel a lot to Hong Kong and China because the plant was in China, based in China, and I travel a lot to Europe and America. Yeah.
And having been involved in charity work in both Hong Kong and the UK, would you say there are any differences in community and charity practices, and why?
There are some differences. When I was in Hong Kong, it's mainly based on a lot of networking, but here it doesn't really based on networking. It really based on hands-on, directly involved with the charity. It's a slightly cultural difference as well, yes. But I learned this skill when I was working for the American company, so I did apply that in the charities in this country. Okay. So it worked well.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did you first come to the UK?
In 1970 something. It's just a long time, I forgot it. 1976, I think.
And how did you travel and find accommodation when you arrived?
It was tough. My husband went straight to work in the London office as soon as we arrived, and I was taking care of my two children, who was 5 and 3. We stayed in a hotel, but then I remember I took them around to look for houses, went to estate agent. It was tough, but you were young, so it doesn't really matter, yes.
Yeah. And what were your first impressions of London?
Quite like it. I quite like it. I don't know why, but I like it. Yes. Yes.
And can you tell us about founding the Chinese Community Service in Harrow? How and when did you become involved? And why were you interested in setting up this service? And what were the original aims?
The original aim is to help the Chinese community. I learned from, I first took up a voluntary job with the Harrow Community Service, and then they said they had some got Chinese coming in to ask for help, because at that time, or even now, the policy is as soon as anyone arrived at the airport, the government has the responsibility to accommodate them. So, but because of the language barrier, I helped them to look for housing. And then one time I went to court with them in order to gain their rights for a better accommodation for them. And then the Chinese children, when they came to this country, they couldn't speak English, and then I worked with the schools to arrange special tuition for these children to learn English after school. And then one day I got a call from a parent saying that, oh, these children should learn Chinese as well. So why don't you set up a Chinese Sunday school?
Yeah.
And that's how it started, a Chinese language Sunday school. And it went on very well, very popular. And I was presumed that it was the first one in London, I think, at that time.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the Chinese painting classes that you had on, and how the day was run, and what happened on the Sundays?
And then because the children were young, apart from doing voluntary work, I did go for painting classes as well, and then I started painting classes for the children in the mainstream on a Sunday. But I also conducted painting classes for people with disability as well. At that time it was called spastic, so they used their hands or mouth to hold their brushes. Okay. So it was really fun. Yes, they enjoy it and I enjoy it.
And can you tell us about your experiences as a mentor and advisor for young people? How and when did you become involved, and what attracted you to become involved in this kind of work?
Because of my business background, I have been in business for over 25 years, so I'm quite skillful in that. So I thought it would be good to educate young people in business, because in business it doesn't have to be academically doing very well. It's just that you have a business mind, entrepreneur concept. So I went to Princess Trust, and then I also started a mini MBA class in Bethnal Green in a school for the 15, 16, and also the young enterprise, so that they have some concept of how to make a budget, financial planning, how to calculate costs, quality control, the concept of business building.
That's great. And what did the mentoring process involve?
The mentoring process is in Princess Trust, like these young people got a loan from Princess Trust, and then they had the business, and maybe they don't have the experience to run it, or how to run it, or how to market it. So I help them either whether it's feasible. Sometimes you had a concept in mind, but it may not be marketable, may not be feasible at all. So I help them to realize what is the potential of this business, or how to do a research before you run the business, whether it's viable in terms of finance.
Yes. And then were these services directed at Chinese young people, or just more general?
No, it's general. Yes, I haven't come across Chinese people at that time. No, it's a mainstream.
And do you feel that Chinese youth in the UK have specific needs, and are these being met by mainstream services?
I haven't come across with Chinese youth, but then the Chinese youth, either they are the second generation. If they are the second generation, they're educated in this country, so they don't have the language barrier. Or, Chinese culture is very strict with the children in acquiring academic qualification. So there may not be a lot of problem with Chinese youth. They may be low achievers, they are not high achievers, but at least in a Chinese family, I mean, from my limited knowledge, I haven't seen any problems. But then, of course, there are, but I haven't come across any Chinese youth problem.
And do you feel that your Chinese heritage and background in Hong Kong have affected your charity work in the UK, and how?
No, it hasn't affected, because I've been doing charity work more than 30 years. It hasn't affected, but I know that it's not many Chinese will have the time to do voluntary work. And also the mindset as well. It is not a norm for Chinese, I think. It's just not a norm. But now I think in China they had started this concept of a voluntary organization, NGO, this sort of thing, but not at that time in the 70s. And even nowadays, not many Chinese have the time to do voluntary work. Yes.
And what kind of people tend to use the charities that you're involved with? Children, elderly?
people with disability,
Okay.
with social housing for people with disability mainly. Yes.
And how did they find out about the charity and get involved?
They all advertise. When they advertise for trustee, they advertise in the Guardian.
Okay.
And then I applied. Yeah.
And have there been any changes in the kind of people who use this service over the years?
No.
And have they been directed at Chinese users specifically?
The charity involved all kinds of people, all types of nationality. I think must be British, all kinds of races maybe, I should put it that way. But I haven't seen a lot of, no Chinese at all. It's only the mainstream, the people in this country. Yeah. But I thought if I live in this country, I should not limit my voluntary work to only just Chinese, because this is my adopted country. So I also have the responsibility to help and all the people with disadvantages, despite their races. So.
And what do you feel the role of charity is in the Chinese community in London, and has this changed over the years?
There are a few community services for the Chinese, but mainly recreation. Chinese community is a very tight-knitted community. If they ask for help, usually within the community they ask for help. I don't think they would go out and spread the word around, I need help, or go to any organization. But there are a few of them that in London that help the Chinese community. Yes.
So you feel like it's important that there's charities and places that actually put out the word that there is help, and that it doesn't make them feel like they're shy about asking for help? You think it's important to...
It is important, but Chinese are a bit shy to ask for help. It's only the Chinese, they help within their community, like other community as well. It's a very tight-knitted thing.
Do you think there's ways of maybe sort of promoting like awareness for help, and promoting awareness for maybe like encouraging them to ask for help?
You're absolutely right. Yes, it should be done that way. And the Chinese are all spread out in London. They're all scattered around. They don't concentrate in one area. It might be difficult, but there are some like in Camden, Islington, in Soho. There are a few in Chinatown. There are a few Chinese community organizations that help the Chinese. Yes.
And so now we'll move on to talk about your experiences as a charity trustee. So can you describe a typical day of trustee duties? So if there's really busy days when you're doing quite a lot of this.
Being a trustee in a charitable organization is not a lot of work, because you just use your experience and also use your knowledge, your skill. Because I use a lot of my business skill in helping these charities, like turning the business around, whether it's the project should be worth doing it, or how to save costs, that sort of thing. So it doesn't take me up a lot of time, and it's very enjoyable just using my skill. Yes. In spare time, I do a lot of studying. I am studying a degree course with the Open University in technology, computing technology, and environment. Yes, these are the new subjects I'm interested in, not business anymore. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so, how do you think you'll use those your knowledge, like these subjects in technology and the environment? Do you have any plans for new projects? I'm
thinking of I always believe in lifetime learning. So if I acquire the skill in either environment or technology, if I could help people with mature age, to keep them up to date with the technology, this is something I may be interested in the future.
Yeah.
Yes. or distance learning that could motivate people over 60, because over 60 they're still quite young at the moment. Lifetime learning, distance education, if I could put this forward to the elder, or to the senior community. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And what made you want to work with the charities that you previously served?
I don't have a choice actually. I like working for people with disability. So because with the management skill and business skill, it could apply to any types of charities or any organizations. It's just whether the product is a different product, but the knowledge, the strategy is more or less the same.
Yeah. And so what challenges did you find in the charity work that you've done?
The same challenges, and it's when I was working, like revenue.
Okay.
Yes. Finance.
Yeah.
That's the only bit. Yes.
Okay. And did you use your business skills to come up with innovative revenue models? And
yes, that's right. Yes.
So a lot of your work as a trustee was based in consulting?
Strategic planning.
Yeah.
Yes, mostly strategic planning.
And what are some of the difficulties facing charities like Outward and Golden Lane Housing?
They're more or less the same.
Okay,
the same.
Finance.
Finance. Yeah.
And what's the best thing and the worst thing about this work?
The best thing I always enjoy, and the worst, I can't think of any worst things. They're very similar in the day-to-day running a company.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So stress and time management?
Time management is also important, but not, yes, time management is in my own time management, because I'm a very disciplined person.
Yeah.
So time management is, yeah.
And what is your attitude and what is your attitude and ethic concerning work, and where did this attitude come from?
Work ethics. Work ethics is very important, but then in the business real world, you have to have a certain limit, reasonable limit, not to go overdoing it.
You mean overworking?
No. You may have added it in a minute. I have to think. You've asked ethics, isn't it?
So your work ethic, like you mentioned you were a really disciplined person. So
work and life balance is the ethics.
Yeah, kind of attitude towards work.
Okay, maybe a mix up with in the business ethics. Business ethics, yes. I still don't understand the question. Ethics and work.
So what is your what is your attitude towards work? What is your view of work?
Oh, okay. Okay. You have to enjoy the work, so that you have a passion for it. That passion is very important. Yes, the right attitude is the passion. Hard working is also one of the elements. Yes. And
how does your work as a trustee fit in with your personal life? You mentioned you were studying and doing voluntary work.
Yes, I work from 9 o'clock till midnight, because while you work from home, so the office is there, so you seem to be stuck in your chair at the computer in your workroom most of the time. So it's quite a long hours, but I like that. Yes, I like it. Yeah.
And what do you do for recreation?
Recreation, I study as a recreation as well, not really a kind of work. I enjoy doing it. My husband and I just pick up learning Chinese opera singing.
Oh wow, like picking opera?
Cantonese opera.
Cantonese.
Yes,
Oh.
Cantonese Chinese opera
Okay.
singing. Yes.
That's
So
amazing.
we both picked this up, so we can do a duet.
Wow. That's great. Thank you so much for your time.
No, you're very welcome.
That's it. Just a few more questions on your work with business mentoring. What kind of businesses what kind of businesses did you help that came to fruition with young people?
One was a hairdressing business.
Okay.
Yes, a girl was running her hairdressing business, and the other one is doing some designing work, graphic design.
Graphic design, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So like a really diverse range of projects.
Yes, yes, anything. Yes. Projects is only a product, so really the managing skill is there. It's the same. Yeah, it's just apply on different products.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.